am excited that we're going to be talking about the 5 elements today with Dondi Dahlin. And so, as you know, the algorithms are getting garbled up, so I need your help. This is how you enroll students in the classroom, and all the students in the classroom go and do your part to help grow the classroom. So share, like, text, do everything. You email people, call them on the phone. Hey, it's good to call people. Call them on the phone and make sure that they are watching today because they're in for a treat. So let me hit the record button. Okay. So today we're going to be talking to Dondi Dahlin, and we're learning about the 5 elements today. So fasten your seatbelt because we're going to learn and grow together. And oh, by the way, Dondi, we're going to start to dance, okay? Everybody else do the same. Here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyounneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today, it's been a while. It's been a while since I have spoken to Dondi Dahlin, and it's been since 2017. I thought, it's time to get her back because this book keeps haunting me. And every time I see it, I think of Dondi, and I think it's time. It's time to learn about this 2,000 plus year old tradition, or she will speak of it even better. It's like Meyers-Briggs. It's kind of like that, but even more ancient. The original kind of get to know somebody and get to know their personality, because one size does not fit all. It doesn't, treat others the way you want to be treated doesn't work, because you might want something different than somebody else. And we've learned that over and over again. But speaker, dancer, energy healer, Dondi Dahlin is here to share, as she is an expert of the 5 elements, how we can use these elements to have better relationships, better jobs, whatever it is that you are trying to achieve. And by the way, 2 of you will win this book. So stay tuned as we bring Dondi in, because it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge. And I am so grateful that Dondi Dahlin is here to do just that. Welcome back, Dondi.
Thank you, Lillian. It's been a while, and I'm so happy to be with you. I had no idea it was since 2017. Yeah. It just flew by. So thank you. Thank you for having me back and asking me to be your guest again.
Well, absolutely. You are a great teacher, and that's what we want to learn, because there's so many different things that we have, different tools that we have. And if you have a hammer, if you have only a hammer, everything is a nail. And so we need to expand the way that we build relationships with people. We need to expand that and use the tools that we've given. And you've had these tools for way, way, way long time. They were handed to you by your mom, Donna Eden. So share a little bit about yourself and what led you to finally embrace the 5 elements.
Oh, I would love to. Well, as you said, my mom is Donna Eden. For people who don't know her, she's a renowned healer in the world of energy medicine. And so growing up, my sister and I were learning, but also just being around a lot of different energy techniques that our mom was doing. It was just part of our life. And she was really starting to concentrate. I would say this is in the 1970s, so I'll age myself. She was starting to really concentrate on different systems. My mom sees energy in the body, and she always has. And she was starting to create a container for these energy systems she was seeing. So people have probably heard of the chakras and the meridians and the aura. These are the types of things that I'm talking about that she had always seen since she was a tiny, tiny girl, since her earliest memories. And one of the energy systems that she saw was this energy system around people that she described as a vibration. And she'd always say, I see 5 distinct vibrations around people. People fall into sort of one of these categories. It's their rhythm, it's the way they move and the way they speak and their behaviors and the way they see the world. There's really 5 very distinct ones. So she would talk about this. And then she met a woman, and this woman was listening to my mom talk, and my mom was talking about these 5 vibrations. And the woman said, you are talking about the Chinese 5 elements. That is the Chinese 5 elements, and they are wood, water, earth, fire, and metal. And so my mom started looking into the 5 elements, this system that's 5,000 years old. It was first written into medical text over 2,000 years ago. And everything my mom read about this system, which is a personality type system, but it's also a health system, my mom would read about it and learn about it, and it was everything she had always seen and taught me and my sister. And so we loved it. We resonated with it. It really started hitting me probably when I was a teenager and started dating boys, that I could get along with them better if I had this awareness about their element. And it showed up many, many times for me when I would get frustrated with my boyfriend. And I went to college, and in my early 20s, I remember being really frustrated with a man that I dated for 7 years. But early on in the relationship, I thought, oh, all of my frustrations are around him being a wood element. It was, I'll say he was a little bit of an imbalanced wood element.
I'd say, right?
But just knowing that I had this key, that I had this clue into who he was that other people didn't have, I started seeing how much more understanding I was having in my relationships about people. And that could be a boss at work, or of course, later when I had my own son, my sister, my mom, myself, and anyone who works in the 5 elements use it every single day of our lives, especially in communication. And I know we'll talk about this a little bit more as the hour goes on, but in communication, if you know that a water element not only communicates a certain way, but they like to hear and receive things a certain way. And it's totally different than a wood element. And that's completely different than a fire element. So going into relationships, you are able to know, okay, I understand what a water's triggers are, and I'm going to soften my communication around those triggers. I'm going to approach this issue with them differently than I would have if I didn't know that most waters have this trigger. And so again, Lillian, it's like, you know, my friends who work in the 5 elements, they say it's a map. We talk about it as a road map or a navigation system, definitely a shortcut of kind of not having to do the nitty gritty years of maybe talk therapy with your mate. Because you have the 5 elements. So that's a little bit about it.
Yeah, but you know, and I really do resonate with this, because when you're talking about personalities and that certain people fit certain personalities, it could become a way that you can love your partner, that you can, if you know that their particular element is a style that you can work around, because you two, or we two, have that same propensity to have triggers with our elements as well. And so let's talk about these elements. And by the way, for those of you who have any questions for Dondi, if you type in a Q and write the question, we will get to it. If we don't get it through the broadcast, we will ask after in the teacher's pet corner. We'll ask all your questions. But if there's a question that comes up, we will make sure we'll ask it. The second thing is I want you to know is that 2 of you will be getting the 5 elements. Claim that you want this knowledge right wherever you're at. Just claim it and then text me at 407-373-5959. That's 407-373-5959. I will pick the 2 names on Friday. No, actually, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to do Monday. Let's do Monday. And the reason why is I want the people that are listening on podcasts and watching on BitChute, all of you, to have an opportunity to get your name on the winner's basket. And then I'll pick 2 names from there. So Dondi, let's continue on with this, because this is really interesting, because everybody wants to know, what am I? What am I? And how can I use this for myself? You mentioned wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. So is there, like, if you get one of those, you go, ooh, that's really a bad one. Is there a bad one? Or is there like, oh yeah, that's a good one. I'm so good and perfect. So how does that work?
I'll tell you, there is a myth that there is a good one, and I'll tell you what it is, but every single element has its strengths. Every single element has its challenges, bar none. I've been in this since I was a little girl, bar none. So the one that everyone thinks is the best is earth. And I think it's because earth element and earth people lead with compassion. And so, of course, when you have a compassionate human being who meets you where you're at, who sees you for who you are, who tends to not judge, not berate, not get angry, they just embrace you, then of course we're all going to think that is the best element.
Oh yeah, that sounds just like me.
But earths have their challenges. Every single element does. And we usually start with water. Would you like me to go through each one a little bit?
Absolutely. Just go through all of them, because I know you call them superpowers and super challenges. So let's talk about each one of them. That's really good.
Great, great. So starting with water, and if you see the 5 elements online or in a book, they're often presented in a wheel, and the wheel is cyclical and it goes around. And when you get deeper into the 5 elements, you'll find it gets really detailed into why a wheel, why the elements are where they are on the wheel, different times of day. Every element has a really kind of strong time of day, and also a time of day when maybe you feel less energy, maybe you're getting a little more irritated, and that all comes in on the wheel. But we start with water, and I'll talk about water in terms of the person. Again, this is a personality type system. It's also a health system, but the water type of person is very creative, very intuitive, highly they resonate with the meaning of life, and they have lots and lots of ideas around the meaning of what they do, of what other people do. They're very, very deep people. And maybe some of you watching or listening are saying, that's me. Well, you'll know it's you if you really don't love crowds, you aren't as social, you like being with people more one-on-one in a conversation.
That sounded like me until now.
So that's when it's interesting, Lillian, that you said that. You'll have these little moments where you'll think, oh, that was totally me, and now it's not. We all have the elements inside of us. We're really trying to figure out which one we lead with, which one is most of our personality, and even more importantly, where we go to under stress. Because when you find out which element you kind of default to under stress, then you can start to change your life. Then you can realize, oh my gosh, I didn't get that for the last 20 years. I've been doing that same thing over and over and over and over. Well, it's because we're kind of bound by our element. And as soon as there's awareness around that, it's amazing how things start to flow and change. So the water person, let's see, I was talking about how they're deep. They like more one-on-one. They are a person who likes to retreat, who likes to isolate, who likes to be, they're probably the person who has enjoyed COVID a little bit. And I don't mean to say that in a flip way, because I know there are so many struggles with COVID, big and small. However, they're probably the people who are feeling a little bit scared to come out of their homes. And I don't mean because of germs and the pandemic. I mean because they don't really want to be around people again. They've enjoyed living in their pajamas for the last year or so. So you can look at waters in terms of work, in terms of love, in terms of how they dress, in terms of their voice, their body type. And I'll just say in terms of work, because this is really, really important. If you are working with a water, especially if you are supervising a water or you're the boss of a water, you'll know, because every time you interrupt them, it takes them longer than anyone else to get back on track. It's really hard. And in fact, we always say, if you are the boss of a water and you have seen that your water employee has been interrupted or disturbed 4 or 5 times on the project they're trying to get done that day, just send them home. Just give them the day off, because they're never going to get back on track. And it's going to be really hard. Waters are a little bit slower of a rhythm. They have a slower movement. They move slower. They walk slower. They take longer on projects. They aren't the person who is going to hit the deadlines quickly, which brings me to my next element, because it is exactly that element that is wood. Wood is the person who is very, very determined. They are always on a mission, even if that mission is just to get the dishes done. They are definitely on a path where they see exactly what needs to be fixed with their day, with their week, with their year, and they're going to beeline to fix it. And if you aren't on board with them, then get out of the way, because you're just in their way. So this is the wood element. Of course, this sounds a little bit scary to people, but think of wood people. They're incredible in running a company. They're incredible in getting things done. They are the people who move the world forward, whereas the waters, which I just went over, are coming up with great ideas. It's quite difficult for a water to put that idea into motion. So give that idea to a wood, and the wood is going to get it done, and they're going to get it done so fast, it'll just whip your hair back how fast they do it. So the wood element is a very powerful person. They show up in a very big way. Their energy is big. When I say that, don't mistake it for their body being big. Actually, woods are often short. They're often more petite people, but their energy is big. You can feel them when they walk in the room. They can be behind you and you know they're there.
That's because they're breathing down your neck and wondering why you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Exactly it. That's it. So that is the wood element. And I'll just go back really fast, because I know people are listening and trying to figure out what their element is. Another way you can start to decipher what your element might be is that every element has an emotion that they go to when they're stressed. And for water, it's fear, and for wood, it's anger. So if you know when you're stressed out and you're having a hard time in life, you're the one who's getting frustrated. You may have some wood, you may be a strong wood, it may be your first and strongest element. But I'll go on to fire. So fire is next, and fire is completely different than water and wood. They lead from joy. In fact, that is their main emotion. Under stress, it's more of a panic. So it's kind of this joy turns into a panic. But when they're balanced and it's just everyday life, they embrace joy. They are joy. It's the person you love to have around. If you have a fire element at your workplace, they're always the person going around to the different cubicles, making sure everyone's happy. How was your weekend? Leaning on the person's cubicle. Oh, I love your hair. Lots of compliments, lots of praise, lots of big, high voice. Oh, and it's oh, and it's oh. That's a fire element. Lots of hugs. My mom has a lot of fire. She's a fire earth. So sometimes you can be balanced in two elements. My mom is a very, her fire and earth are very, very balanced, and then everything else comes down the road. But speakers, performers, love having my mom in the audience because she's smiling the whole time, and she sits right in the front row, and everything they say, she's like, oh yes, all right. And they
they're cheerleaders. Yeah,
they are the cheerleader. Absolutely. So fires are a very social type. Oh, I'll tell you a little bit about fires in COVID. They're probably the ones who are having the hardest time of being in lockdown because they really yearn for that social aspect of their life, the people around them. They want to talk, they want to engage, and they don't want it to be on a computer. They want to be one-on-one, touching each other and hugging and touching each other's hair, and let's go to lunch and show me your new shoes. So fires are very, very social. So going to the next element, which is earth element. Earth element and fires have some similarities, and you will see overlap with some of the elements. And their element overlap is that fires and earth, out of all five elements, love people the most. They believe in people, they trust people, they want to be around people. People make their world go round. And the difference between fire and earth are earths are usually a little bit more mellow. So fire is really, it's like a wildfire. It's going all over the place. Earths are more of a container for people. They're the peacemaker. And that really is their archetype, the peacemaker, the caretaker. And they create this really safe container. It's amazing for me when I see earths where they come into a situation with people. Maybe it's a workplace, maybe it's a family, maybe it's a family reunion, and they're able to come in, say a few words, and make everybody feel better. It's like they calm everybody's nervous system. And it's not just because they speak with a gentle voice. They usually have that really soft kind of preschool teacher voice. And how are you doing, honey? That's the earth type. But it's not just that. It's, again, I work in energy, and it's the energy of the person. So with elements, when an earth walks into a room, they don't even have to start speaking. You just feel safe around them, and their main emotion, as I mentioned before, is compassion. They lead with compassion. And I should say, each element has a main emotion that they sort of lead with. You can feel it from them in everyday life. The the wood emotion of anger is very different than the earth emotion of compassion, which turns to worry under stress, by the way. But they lead with that. So you can feel it just by them coming into the room. So the earth type, I do like to say, a telltale sign of a really strong earth person is look at your home. Your home is going to be very inviting for people. Overstuffed pillows, always cookies in the oven, baking, maybe a fire is going. You enjoy having guests over, and you're going to make them feel very cared for the whole time that they're in your home. And you're usually serving tea and making sure that they're comfortable. So all of these aspects of the element are very strong for an earth. And then we have metal.
Okay.
So metal is the last one in this wheel that I talked about. And metals, I would say metals and woods are the ones who get the worst rap. And that is because of the 5 elements. The woods and the metals are the most analytical. They're very hard workers, and they both prioritize work. And sometimes it can show up as insensitivity because they prioritize work over people. I'm a little bit less ambitious than I used to be, but I'm still a super hard worker. I'm a wood, by the way. I'm a wood water with earth as my third. So you can have 3. But in my 20s, I would tell people, you know what? Work is my thing. So don't expect me to be calling you. Don't expect me to hang out with you on weekends. I work all the time. I love it. That's my life. And I would make it very plain, and woods do that. They're very direct. So a metal also prioritizes work, but they are a little bit more of a solo artist about it, and they're more quiet and they keep more to themselves. And Lillian, before I go on and on about the elements, I should say their main emotion is grief. So for the metal, it is grief. I'm going to stop because I've been talking.
Well, no, I mean, we're all learning from you, and both of you know, for those of you, remember, we've got this book available. So 407-373-5959. I'll pick 2 names on Monday. So all of you have an opportunity to get into the winner's basket and get selected on Monday. No, I do have some questions for you because I you know, when you're talking about these personalities, and especially when you're either living with somebody or working with somebody, or you're friends with that person, imagine how little you would take personally if you know that's just their personality, because one of the 4 agreements is don't take anything personal. And so by knowing these personality traits, it is a lot easier for you to say, oh, well, that's just who they are, and kind of accept who they are, and kind of not, you know, take it personally if they're late or whatever. But it sounds like to me that every single element has their strengths. And as we know, our strengths can become our weaknesses too. So as we are looking at our weaknesses, can those be rewritten with other elements? Can they be, how do you rewrite the elements, so to speak?
Yes. Well, first of all, just having an awareness. Okay, so let me take the earth element because everyone thinks it's so grand and everyone wants to be an earth. And it's funny how many people tell me, I'm an earth. And I'm like, not quite, but we'll talk about that later. The earth element person, their challenge is that they overgive. And it actually starts to it can manifest physically. And this has been known for centuries that emotions can manifest physically. So I don't think I'm saying anything too woo-woo, but every element has a main organ. And for the earth element, their main organs are stomach and spleen. It's often why earth elements have tummy aches. When they get stressed, they have a lot of digestive issues. And so if you know this about yourself, if you know you're an earth and you know you have those issues, you can already kind of rewrite, as you said, and prevent them by maybe taking herbs or vitamins that are specifically for the spleen and the stomach, or doing energy exercises, learning how to not overgive, learning how to create boundaries. Earths have the hardest time of any element with boundaries. That is one of their main challenges. And so they can really, really sort of just burn out on life and really become kind of a shadow of themselves. So as people are listening and the viewers are watching, they can start to predict. You start to predict your challenges and you take care of them before they happen. So you're kinder to yourself, you're kinder to other people. The whole system creates compassion. I'll tell you one way I'm a little kinder, Lillian, is I used to take personally people who were late. So woods are very time oriented. They're going to show up on time and they expect you to show up on time. Well, a water type is almost never going to show up on time. It's just not their thing. They're a slower rhythm. They don't live by the clock. They don't even look at the clock. They can think about it, but it's not going to be the same when a wood thinks about it. So first of all, if you have water types in your life, you can have the compassion. Oh, this is a water's rhythm. They're probably going to be late. And you can adjust for that. Tell them to come 15 minutes earlier. But also, if you are a water type and you know that about yourself, there are simple ways to start being on time. Everything from practical ways of sticky notes to everyone has a smartphone now, alarms on your phones. Have someone call you, show up 15 minutes earlier, put it on your calendar 15 minutes earlier. You know this about yourself. You can rewrite your challenges.
That's awesome. So every single one of them, like you had mentioned some of the challenges for earth and water. And you had mentioned that the emotion of wood is anger. But when you're looking at fire, where their emotion is joy, does wood have a positive emotion? I'm not saying being angry is a negative emotion. It's a subset of being sad, actually. And so how is there like when wood is at its best, are they still angry?
Well, this is what I would say. Are they still angry? It's interesting. This emotion, kind of the same emotion of each element, it's almost like it's right under the surface, but it's not like woods are walking around angry all the time. I'm certainly not. However, if I'm in a situation and I see an injustice happen, I am the first one to speak up. I am the first one to say, this is not right. This is not happening, not on my watch, where everybody else might be quiet about it. The anger that comes up for a wood is immediate. It's almost like it's right there and accessible. Same with an earth. They go to worry almost immediately. So with an earth, their son is saying, bye, mom, I'm going out for the day with my friends. Immediately the earth is, but do you have a jacket? But do you have enough food? But do you have enough water? And take a cell phone. And who are you driving with? It's right under the surface, that worry. And then it stays with the earth longer than it stays with other people. Whereas somebody might be able to get over anger very quickly. It's sort of with the wood. They're like, yeah, but I'm still angry about that. And why isn't anyone else angry? And then they get angry that no one else is angry.
That's logical.
And same with the earth. They're still worrying when the rest of their family members are saying, it's okay. He just went out with his friends, mellow out. But it's a feeling for the earth that's deep in their body, and it bubbles up just like anger does for the wood, just like fear does for the water, just like panic for the fire. My mom panics so fast. Oh my gosh, I'm always like, Mom, you don't need to panic. This is not a panic situation, but it comes up for her because it's right there under the surface. And with metal, it's grief. And there's almost this underlying grief that I see in metals, this grief for what could have been in their life and didn't work out, grief for people who have died, grief for their own death. They're the last in the wheel, and metaphorically and energetically, they're often thinking about the end of their life, and it's the end of the wheel. So does that explain it a little bit, Lillian? That it's
but where do these emotions come from? Does the past traumas in life, does the how do you become an earth? How do you become someone who is fitting into the elements, the metals, the water, how do you become that? Is there triggers in your life that pushed you there, or are you just born with it?
Yeah, so if you talk to a doctor of Chinese medicine, they believe you are born with it. And it doesn't always come out right away. Everybody always wants to know what their kids are, but sometimes it takes a while for kids. In Hinduism, they say there's kind of 4 years from 0 to 4, and then 4 to 8, and then 8 to 12. And by the time you're 12 years old, you're in your own life, your own karma. So the years before that were the karma of your mother and your father. And by 12, you come into your own karma. And that's really interesting, because a lot of times I see kids who go through all their developmental phases, and then around 12, you can start to see their element, the main element, really bubbling up for them. My mom sees energy, so she often sees the energy of the element in the little newborn baby, but for others it comes out in certain behaviors. An element can also go dormant, and we have to think about all of these different pieces of life that affect your elements. If you are a fire, and fires move, they're very physical in their body, and they're often talking, and they're often interrupting, which is another thing that you don't have to personalize anymore. You just think, oh, they're a fire, they interrupt. But if you're in a family that is always telling you to be quiet, maybe thinking you have ADHD, maybe wants to put you on medication because you're too hyper, then they're going to squash your fire. And actually, that turns into a whole nother set of issues. And that's why we love the 5 elements, because we want to honor the rhythm of the child, honor the rhythm of the adult. There are adults who have never honored their rhythm, or their family didn't honor them. And so the 5 elements helps you see who you really are and who might have been hiding back there, and you can bring it out and celebrate it.
Yeah. And for so many of us, like we're hearing this and like, wow, I could have used this with raising my kids. I could have used this with, this boyfriend that I had, or my spouse right now. I mean, there's so many things, but this information was suppressed for many, many years. And I want you to talk about that in a little bit. Before I want to just, speaking of suppression, we know that things are happening now with cancel culture. If you're not saying the right thing, you're done. They don't want to hear it. So we've got to learn what our history and our past is like, so we don't repeat it. So if you are seeing the signs of the times that are very similar to all this suppression that's going on, I want to make sure that if you haven't done so already, please go to whenyounneedafriend.com and subscribe, because that's how we find out what's going on in the classroom, who's going to be on. You also get my 90-day challenge to self-love ebook. And there's lots of things that are in there. The blogs that you get, you also get the podcast sent to you to your email as well. So it's convenient for you, not just to find where you need to go to. If all of a sudden you go to these platforms and go, oop, there's no live class today, wonder what happened. Well, you'll know where to go to. While you're at whenyounneedafriend.com, please subscribe to all my social media, including BitChute. And as you know, I mentioned my podcast people who are kicking it. They're spreading all this information. It's all around the world. I don't think there's one place in the world, maybe Antarctica, I have to check that, that they've heard the classroom. So this is really exciting how this information is spreading. So you can do your part by subscribing, and we can make sure that all this information goes to you. Then while you're there, there at whenyouneedafriend.com, click onto my sponsors page. Without my sponsors, there would not be a class. I'd be doing other things as well. And so I want to encourage you to click on there, check out my sponsors, my Keep Me Safe Organics beauty products that I use from head to toe, non-synthetic, all clean and organic. First Alternative Care, telemedicine, $19.99 for your entire household. It doesn't matter how many people are in your entire household, or even if you are related. So that's telemedicine 24/7 for medical, dermatology, and behavioral health counseling. That's 3 hours a year for that one. So the pharmacy in Merritt Island doing changing things to compounds and is just a wonderful place that have been supporting the classroom forever. And Right Way Health and Wellness in Georgia, Dr. Jennifer Gramuth, who's coming on, I believe, next week or the week after next, to talk about the lymphatic system and all the wonderful ways that we can heal our bodies naturally. And there's my Shop Now bag, my affiliate sponsors, like Ground Therapy, Brain Tap, and Microcurrent through Avasia to help you be pain-free. And so those are my and the B3 bands. 2 pounds is creating this muscle, just 2 pounds. So check out my B3 bands and figure out ways that you can maximize your health naturally and figure out how you can support them as they're supporting the classroom. And last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. You can donate $1 or $1,000. You can donate your time, your talent, your treasure, whatever it is. Help us grow the classroom together. And finally, I want to encourage you to go to learnthefiveelements.com. That's Dondi Dahlin's website, that you can take a test. You can take a test to discover what you are. And she's also doing a 5-week online training. We can have her talk about that as well. But Dondi, thank you so much for coming into the classroom today and teaching. This is really, I can only imagine how difficult it is for you to not kind of like go down the list, check, 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 check. When you meet somebody, I got you pegged. How is that for you?
It's true. It's true. When we're watching movies, the news, TV shows, when we're in a social situation, oh, water, oh, he's a widow, check out that fire. Yeah, we do it all the time. And it
but
actually
is that, but when do you see in others who you are though? Because, I teach that, we've learned that in the classroom that, when people are talking to me about other people, they're really telling me about themselves. It all depends on the circumstance. If they're really concerned about a behavior, and that's a different thing, but if they're talking about somebody or they don't like something about someone, like they're poking you in the eye all the time, it could be what I don't want to look at in me. So is it possible for us to see ourselves in somebody else, especially if they're one of those annoying elements?
It's possible. It's possible. I find that when you become more and more balanced in your life, in your energies, with your family, in your relationships, and you're really becoming grounded, you can see clearly on all levels, much more clearly. And then you can really see who you are, what your challenges are, what somebody else's are. And oh, those don't belong to me at all, but I see what they are in that person. So it's all about balance, isn't it?
So yes, absolutely. So I had asked you a question before we went on the break, I was talking about my sponsors. Do you remember what that was?
Yes, you asked me about the history and how the 5 elements,
the suppressions. Yeah.
It was suppressed. It went underground. So what happened was the 5 elements was this incredible way of life in China, also in Japan, in different parts of Asia, but especially China. And then we had this dictator come along in the 1930s, and then in the 40s, he gained more power, and that's Mao Zedong. And Mao Zedong became the ruler of China, and he did not want people to be individuals, because it's much easier to rule a country and tell people what to do if they don't have individual thinking and their own unique minds and their own unique way of life. And so he wanted everybody to be the same, wake up at the same time, go to bed at the same time. eat their dinner at the same time. It's the reason that this massive country of China, which I think is slightly bigger than the entire United States of America, they don't have different time zones. It's all one time because he wanted everybody to eat their dinner at the same time. And it actually creates for a lot of issues today. In that, when he suppressed the 5 elements, he suppressed everything along with it. So feng shui, which a lot of people are familiar with, is sort of the 5 elements for the home and your workspace: poetry, dance, music, and it disappeared. There's a couple of different people who started bringing the 5 elements to America, probably around the 1960s. One is a man named Worsley, and Worsley is really credited with bringing it back through acupuncture. I know that President Nixon in the 1970s had some 5 elements acupuncture done, and whatever it was, if it was for his knee or some part of his body, he found relief immediately. And so it gained popularity, but it's really coming back now because it honors people's individuality, that we all think different, that we all have opinions, that we should all be sharing and communicating about, not being suppressed.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I want to remind all of you, the book, The 5 Elements, we're going to be giving it away on Monday. 2 of these books. So get your name in the winner's circle. Get your text me at 407-373-5959. That's how you get into the winner's basket. And on Monday, I'll select 2 names, and Dondi will send you a copy of the book. And I'm so grateful for you to do that. So,
oh, you're so welcome. It's my pleasure. And Lillian, if you have any Spanish speakers and they would like a book in Spanish, I have Los 5 elementos.
No me digas. That's wonderful. That's a new thing.
3. I'll send 2 in English and this one to somebody, and it's all in Spanish.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Yeah. So if you want a Spanish book, make sure you say Spanish, please, because that way we will make sure that the people who want Spanish will get selected separately. That is awesome, Dondi. Thank you so much for that. That's great. So let me put one in Spanish. So I know that we have listeners and followers all over the world, but are you sending the book anywhere in the world or just for the United States?
It is my pleasure to send it anywhere. I will pay for the shipping. I appreciate all of you. Lillian appreciates all of you. And we just really want to do this. So
wonderful. That sounds like an Earth. That was an Earth move. That is wonderful. Okay. So with these elements, are there certain people that get along best with other people? You know, like you go through the Meyers-Briggs and you can kind of tell who the person is, and you know, maybe there's some conflict with people. Are there any preferences to the elements as well?
There are, yes. So there's a whole chart, and I believe it's on my website at learnthefiveenements.com, of the elements who get along with each other really well and the elements who just sort of push each other's buttons. And when I found this out, it made so much sense to me, because wood and metal are 2 people who push each other's buttons. But before I knew that, I could never understand why there was a type of person that I was just irritated by. They were a perfectly nice person. They didn't do anything wrong, but they showed up in the room and I was irritated because, again,
that's funny. But what great awareness on your part. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so it really helps to know these also, that when you're going into work, that certain elements work better together. So I had mentioned wood and water before. They really do work well together. And wood and fire. A fire is all over the place. They're a little bit scattered. They have their hand in every piece of the pie. And the wood can come along and say, look, we're going to focus on this. So bring your joy and let's focus on this. So it can be really, really healthy in the workplace to know who you're going to get along with and who's going to push your button or whose buttons you're going to push.
Yeah. And again, you can go to the 5elements.com and take your test, because I'm going to figure out what am I? What am I? So I'm going to find out who I am. Don, do you want to take a guess?
Well, it's interesting, Lillian. I've seen different sides of you, and often that happens when somebody's in the limelight.
Yeah.
Because especially with you, you're interviewing people, and so you have to meet your guests' energy. You also have all of these people watching and listening. So I think, in my opinion, to be a really good interviewer, to be sort of a public speaker, you really need to have that balance between the elements, and the different elements will show up. But I have to tell you, I was on your website and I was looking at some of your videos, and you are very focused on truth and clarity and getting the truth out. And that is very woody. And I don't think you're woody all the time. I'm not sure if it's your first element, because I feel other things as well. Mm-hmm. But there is wood there that comes on strong. And of course, I love it because woods love each other.
That's right. That's right. There is nothing better to me than someone who just says, this is what I need. This is how I need it. I'm like, woo, you took away the guesswork from it all. Absolutely. But I do have like a tendency. And when I first started learning about the 5 elements, I thought, I am so drawn to water. I have got to be near the water. And I thought maybe that was my element. But the more I learned about water, I may have a little bit of water in me, but it's not my primary. But when you hear about these different traits, I think, we possess a little bit, and can we just say, okay, I want to be more wood. I want to be more earth. And so in your book, you help them with that.
Yes, absolutely. There are so many different ways to do that. And this is really important because it helps you choose who you're going to hang around. Because if you want more fire in your life, the best way to do it is to hang around fires, because they're contagious. If you want to be more organized and on time, and you want to get projects done, well, going to a seminar and sitting for 6 hours and listening how to get projects done isn't going to help as much as just being around woods, because they're going to bring you on board and you're going to get those projects done. So it's a really, really important way to see, who am I hanging out with? Who am I spending my time with? Who did I talk to on the phone for 2 hours this week? And do I want to continue to have those same people in my life?
Yeah. Dr. Lorraine Day and I mean, she's, I'm sure, a very strong wood. And she and I can talk for probably 2-3 hours and then not even know that the time has flown. And I'm a modified wood. She's a stronger wood. I think that's her through and through. But she is just an unbelievable woman. And it's so nice to have these like truthful, honest. And I know that she's not going to hold back at all and hold a grudge later, because she is what she says she is. And so to me, not playing that is so important when it comes to friendships. You want people to feel free to share how they truly feel. And so it's good to have that connection with certain personalities types or element type. So as we continue, because we've got 2 minutes for the podcast, if somebody were to walk in right now and say, what is this class about? What would you tell them, Dondi?
I would tell them it's a class that will bring more compassion to your life, for yourself and for other people, and it will up-level your skills around communication in a way that communication and relationships become clear like they have never become clear before. And you have this feeling that we really are all in this together. that we aren't all separate beings. We really are here all together, and we can do it together.
Awesome. Awesome. And your class again, that you're going to do the 5-week online training, when is that?
Comes out in July, 5-week online training. It's called Living the 5 Elements.
Ooh, I bet you had fun filming that one.
Such a great time. And we'll really get into the health aspect of it as well. All the organs, the health challenges, the yin and yang, because that's important too. Are you a yin wood or a yang wood? There are differences in that. So it'll be great.
Awesome. Okay. So it's called the5elements.com. That's where you go to. I want you to tell me what you are. So go take the test and post it there, or text me. And then who knows, if you text me your what your element is, you might get a book too. So here we go. Thank you so much, Dondi. It was nice to kind of get reconnected with this new tool for some people, or maybe a tool that you just put away and just pulled it out and polished it. So thank you so much for that. For those of you who are watching now or listening on podcast, just know that we're going to continue our conversation on the Teacher's Pet Corner. So if you have any questions, now's the time to ask it. Dondi, thank you so much for being in today's class. And please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dondi Dahlin wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job. Just on time.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, so I've got a comment. It just explained who my kids are and why they function the way they do. It just disappeared hold on a second. It just disappeared on me here. Yes, great job. I'm glad you're claiming this book, because it just explained. So it's how they function, operate, the way they do. I would love to read more about it. Perfect. And so I think that people don't realize, Dondi, that there's so many different ways to truly get to know the other person. To really, because when you get to know somebody else, first of all, you need to get to know yourself. That's the most important to me, most important. But once you know yourself, and then you realize what the other person is like, and you truly get to learn who the other person is, doesn't that cut down with some of the things that are just unnecessary in a relationship?
Yes, it cuts down, like we mentioned earlier, on personalizing things, getting triggered by things. So we all have triggers. And as soon as you know that, oh gosh, I know my husband is a water and I know 4 waters, this is a trigger, I'm going to avoid that or soften it. Or like I said earlier, come in at it in a different way. And also it is so important, as you've mentioned a couple of times, that you don't beat yourself up anymore. You know, waters do that a lot. They beat themselves up. They feel like, oh, I just want to be on the couch all day. I'm lazy. I'm always late. I'm stupid. As soon as the waters realize, no, that's actually your rhythm. It's an energy in your body that you are kind of bound by. The waters are never going to have as much energy as the other elements, not ever. They don't have the energetic resources to lift themselves up in the same way. So then they can find other ways, be around a fire, be around a wood, and stop beating yourself up for it.
Yeah. And of course, I didn't even mention that this weekend is the New Truth Series, I Am the Solution workshop. So I have a 3-day workshop. So it's the 16th, 17th, and 18th. And interesting, a lot of the things that we talk about is the mindset. And we talk about, and I didn't even mention it for those of you who want to, we're giving away 1 seat for free. So if you're interested in attending, make sure that you text, because I'm going to pick 1 name tomorrow. I'm going to pick 1 name, and I didn't even mention it during the podcast. But one of the things that we focus on is healing past traumas, and becoming aware that this was a trauma, and that this allows you to kind of set it free, because now you know the genesis of it, the root cause, of what happens. But I can see how a water could have low self-esteem because of the rhythm and flow can be misunderstood and be called lazy or non-caring or, whatever. Do you find that with the elements and not knowing what your element or recognizing the element in other person, that could create somewhat of hurt feelings, reputation, past traumas?
Yes, yes. So with this trauma that you're talking about, a lot of that heaviness of the trauma, or not even knowing where this trauma is coming from, that heaviness can be released through knowing about your element, knowing about the 5 elements. When somebody meets a strong wood, we talked a little bit about strong woods. They're often called insensitive, or they're yelling at me. A lot of people think woods are yelling. Actually, woods don't yell that much, but they're very, very direct. They tend to look people right in the eyes.
Yeah.
And so when a wood gets it that, this really is my own personal vibration, that I am direct, that I want to fix things, and other people, your family members, know that about you, then that whole trauma of a wood being insensitive, it's not there anymore. Because for sure, like my family members, I'm the main wood in our family, and they say, oh, I get it. That's Dondi. She sees what's wrong with a situation. She's going to fix it.
Yeah.
And this is her way of being helpful. And so it totally changes a trauma even being created. You know how many traumas get created at family reunions?
Oh my goodness. I learned a long time ago, if you think you've evolved yourself, hang out with your family for just 5 minutes, they'll put you back there.
Exactly. And I have a friend who learned the 5 elements from me, and then she said, God, my brother-in-law used to bug me all the time. He'd come for Christmas, he'd sit on the couch the whole time, watch TV. I just thought, lazy slob. But then I got, oh my gosh, he's a water. And when I'd go sit with him on the couch, we had great conversations, but it was just me and him. He wasn't going to come into the kitchen and talk to the other 9 family members. You had to really zero in on him. And then she learned to really appreciate him. So a lot of this trauma, I think, can be diffused just by appreciating the people in a new way. You see them in a new way.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, that doesn't mean that we have an excuse, right? Like if somebody is late all the time, how can they become more aware of the time factor? Like if you're inviting me to a party, I'll be there. When my husband and I first got married, he was like sitting there with the keys waiting at the door. I'm like, I still got 15 minutes, or our idea when we first got married, his idea of catching a flight was being there early when you were being boarded, being the first one in, sitting there having a cup of coffee, whatever. My idea of being on time for a plane was jumping on the plane as it was backing out. So that created a lot of issues when we first got married. And so now, like, we've kind of like figured, like, if it's something that is like, you have to be there on time, I'm punctual.
Yes.
But if it's not, if it's a ish.
Right. So you two have learned to work with each other, and that's what you do with the elements. So my partner is water, and he just knows, that I am going to go nuts if we're late for things. And he knows, and he had to learn, it took him a while to understand that I need to be at the airport waiting at the gate an hour before the plane takes off.
Yep, that's Robert.
He didn't know that about me. He would have just thought that I was uptight, that I couldn't get over this, that I was just a person who was stubborn. But he sees over and over and over, oh, these are woods. This is what woods are like. And it's actually painful for them if we're running late. So that helps to know it's painful for your partner if you're doing something that goes against their rhythm or against the tide.
this is just like triple boom boom. It's just triggering. The way we dealt with it is like, okay, if it's something that I need to be on time for, like church. I mean, I've never been late for, singing at church or for doing the classroom, or if there's an appointment, I'm always on time for, but for things that there's leeway.
Yes.
I think, okay, just like, we'll get there when we get there.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a time that it became like such an issue that we agreed to that if he's ready and I'm not ready, he can go.
Yes.
Just go and I'll join you.
I do that as well. We do that. And it takes away a lot of the worry and the angst. And you could go in your car, I'll go in mine, and I'll see you when we get there and we'll have a big hug. And it will be great. Yes.
And you don't walk away going, I can't believe they're so on, this or that. But you can actually adjust your life or your element to be understanding of the other one and be able to say, okay, if he leaves or if she leaves, it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with them.
Yes.
And like you said, and I'll give you a hug when you get there. I love that.
Yes, you honor each other. It really is about honoring each other's rhythms.
Okay, so Deidre says she's a wood. She goes, oh my God, I'm a wood. Congratulations, Deidre. And Myrna is texting me going, oh, this is so interesting. Yes, and so text, I want to hear, I'm going to check and see what anybody on YouTube has said anything. Okay, everybody's giving high fives and all this, but I want to hear what you are. Tell me if you feel that you are. Okay, let's go over the 5 elements again. There's wood, fire, earth, metal, water.
Yes.
And I think that with everything, like you have these people that are like this hippie, they're like earthy, they're like very creative, like you were saying, but then if you want to throw a party, you don't ask them to plan anything.
Right.
So when I use that hippie kind of like, what would they be? Earth?
Probably earth or water. So my sister and I go to a lot of festivals, and a couple of them are pretty hippie. One is the Oregon Country Fair. It's a whole hippie festival. And whenever we're there, we walk around saying, oh, water, water, water.
Everybody's giving you water. Are you thirsty?
They're very slow moving, sitting under trees with 2 people, or they're just one person being in their own bliss. A lot of earth people too, but you won't find woods at a festival like that because woods are at the office on the weekend working, getting the projects done, and woods love it. They love work. This is also what people need to understand. Again, going back to honoring the rhythm. Yes, woods have a tendency to overwork, and they need to be careful of that. Mm-hmm. However, they love it. They thrive with work. So I always say, if you have a wood and you're trying to get them to go on a vacation, give them something to do. Let them plan the city tour, or let them plan the hotel and the flights and all the meals. They actually need to be doing something. They're all about moving forward and doing. And it's very hard for a wood to sit on the beach and try to relax under a palm tree. It doesn't feel lovely.
You know what? It's interesting because you had mentioned during the class that you were, in your youth, you were more of a woods. Now you're not so much. I agree. I have been a wood like at the beginning, and I can see myself in my youth being more wood, but I love a party. I love, like, now this year, because I think because of COVID, because now you're working out of the home and you can work till midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. But I also know that I have a rhythm. We know that we have to be in bed by 10:30 and rest till 2, because that's when our healing enzymes take over. The scrubbing bubbles is what I call it in the body. They work hard so you don't have to. And that's when the organs are detoxifying. And so I know all of that. And so I've made it a very strong point to stop and say, and I know that Robert has seen a change in me too, that come, Thursday afternoon, it's like, I just shut down. So where did that come from all of a sudden, where I just want to play? I want to I'll do my work, but I just want to get away from electronics. I want to just restore, what would that be? Where would that come from?
Yeah, it could have come from many things in your life. A lot of people, they don't change elements. You pretty much have the same elements all your life, but you balance them. And a lot of people come into balance when they have kids. They start to feel more of that earth energy. Some people just start really seeing that, okay, I'm getting older. And there are certain parts of my body that aren't doing as well. For wood, it's liver and gallbladder. Those are their main organs that can really suffer. And so maybe a wood type will do a cleanse for their liver and realize they're a different person when they do this liver cleanse. They feel so much better. So you're going to do more of that. And the physical is always connected to the emotional and the mental. So it's amazing how maybe you start eating different, but now I can shut down on Thursdays and I have the skill and ability to do that. In my 20s, I could never shut down. I was working all the time, but and that is really one of the main goals of learning the elements, to bring that balance in and age gracefully and age with joy and age so you aren't an old woody curmudgeon or a water who goes into, solitary in their home and it's all dark, but really balance your elements so you can have them as you get older.
Yeah, I think that is that little bit more fire, where I just want to be joyful. I just want to just take that, because I know that there's things I need to do, but I do want to experience that joy all the time. And I know that even when I'm working, I am joyful. I love what I do. And so is that more like the fire element? And so is that something that I'm maybe would fire? Is that too opposite, or?
No, it's not too opposite. I do see a lot of fire in you when I see you giving interviews and doing these videos. And fire does want the joy. They want the play. They want the pleasure. Fires don't do well when there isn't some sort of love and pleasure and happiness and lightness around. They really struggle when everything is serious.
Yeah. And last week was a really started doing some research on some of the side effects of the shots that people are taking right now, and it was very heavy for me. And so I had to, and I use a word, denial. And Robert had reminded me, he said, "You're not in denial. You're just not allowing it to. I'm in the moment. I'm not focusing on the future. I am in the moment. And I understand that this is something that I've learned, but I need to remain focused in the now." And so it's taken everything of what I've learned. I call it, the people that go through the I Am the Solution workshop, we're called self-cleaning ovens. So we go through this process where we learn a little bit more about how to combat maybe some of these elements. I want to incorporate some of these things, what little I know about it. It's interesting for people to maybe watch this video, share this video with your friends, especially if you know somebody that is like so strong in a particular element. They may recognize themselves too. And so Myrna says that she's earth and water is secondary. Deidre is wood. Let's see. So Kathy is water earth element. And then let me see what else. I'm trying to find others, but isn't it interesting that as we look at ourselves, do you feel that we give ourselves a pass now and say, okay, I'm not going to try to feel bad about this, but I'm going to maybe work with how I can incorporate something, a healthier habit or a new habit?
Absolutely. And you brought up before that, do people use it as an excuse? Sometimes they do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm about to yell at you because I'm a wood.
When my mom interrupts over and over and over, she's like, I'm just a fire. I'm just a fire. I said, you can't use that as an excuse, Mom. Really, let me speak. But you can absolutely, I think it always comes back to, like with my mom, it's still hard for her to not interrupt because fires are very, very in the moment. Always. I mean, oh my gosh, they are the masters of living in the moment. And in fact, I always say, when you have a guru or a leader who says we all need to live in the moment, I say, well, not the fires. They actually need to learn to not live so much in the moment. But what it does for my mom, it's still hard for her to not interrupt, but she understands now how for me that just takes me off the track when someone interrupts me. And it's so disturbing to me that it's hard for me to get back on track. So now that she knows that, and for many woods, that's true, and metals, that's also true. It's really hard for metals to be interrupted as well. She knows, okay, that's a wood metal thing. It's not oh, Dondi's such a, brat about it, or Dondi's so lame about it. It's, oh, wow. It's really their rhythm gets jarred. Their entire rhythm gets jarred. So yeah, it helps so much to understand others and where they're sitting in the world.
Yeah. And we have a question here. It says, earth with water tends to get depressed, which is definitely not me. I will have periods of sadness, but not depression. Could I be a third element as well?
Yes, this person could be a third element. And let me also talk to you a little bit about the water depression. Mm-hmm. I mentioned about yin and yang. So as you go deeper into the elements, you're either the yin of the element or the yang of the element. And if you're a yang water, you tend to get more depressed. If you're a yin water, which is myself, I don't get depressed as much as I feel like things are futile, kind of hopeless. I'm like, well, why should I even do that? It's not going to work anyway. Mm-hmm. That type of futile feeling. So it's not always depression, although depression is for a lot of waters. And one reason is because they get so kind of trapped in the, what does this all mean? What does my life mean? What does his life mean? What does her life mean? And how does it combine with my life? And they get so much in their head and the thoughts of it, they can go to a depressed or sad place. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested to know if that person sometimes feels futile, or like the person said, it could be another element coming in.
So you said the yin and the yang.
Yes.
So how does someone know? Do you shift back and forth, or are you one or the other, or both?
Usually one or the other. And so let me take wood, for example. So wood's organs are liver and gallbladder. Gallbladder is yang and liver is yin. You will know that you're yin or yang because if you're a yin person, a lot of your emotions, you internalize them, even if you're a wood. So I'm a wood and I will speak up and I will be direct, but I often internalize my emotions too. I have that dialogue. I have that process. It's an internal feeling in my body. A yang wood is the one who is right up in people's faces, and they are not going to skip a beat. I had a yang boyfriend who I mentioned who, anytime he was perturbed by somebody, he was right up in their face. If we were at Starbucks, he was saying, "You did not do this right." And he was making it very public. That's also yang. Yin is a little bit more private. So when you find out, and this goes into the health system, if you're yin or yang, I'm a yin wood. So I'm going to be much more governed by my liver. I have to take care of my liver more. Yang woods need to take care of their gallbladder. And you start really digging into your health issues, and yin and yang, it gets more and more fascinating the deeper you go.
Oh my goodness. I want to remind you guys that we have this book available, and we have one in Spanish. So if you want the copy in Spanish, there you go. Los cinco elementos. If you want one, just need to let me know. And anywhere around the world. So I'm going to give you till Monday to text me at 407-373-5959. All your names will go into the winner's basket, and then I will select 2 names on Monday. And I also want to invite all of you to this weekend. I Am the Solution. We are giving away 1 seat. So if money is an issue of why you cannot come, then at least you can try to make this happen by if you get selected. So I am selecting 1 seat, and you never know. You won't if you don't text me at 407-373-5959 to get your place and pick that 1 seat in the I Am the Solution, the answer is going to be no. But if you at least try, you might get it. So I'm just excited to see, these things, this anger that you're talking about, this is usually unresolved sadness. And what happens in today's world, you go in because you have a sadness and nobody helps you deal with the sadness. And then they call it depression. I think that the word depression is overused, and medication is overused as well. Yes. And learning how to deal with, your emotions and past traumas and all of that is so important. And that's why I'm doing the workshop, the I Am the Solution. And the I Am is the God in us. The I Am the Solution. The solution is an acronym that I created that puts it all together. But the I Am in us, the God in us, we can do all things when you look at it. And so many of us stop ourselves thinking, oh, what can I do? And I'm thinking everything, because if I only had a speck of God inside of me, what can't I do? I mean, God is so powerful. So I hope that you guys think about and consider joining us this weekend. We only have a few seats available. We're pretty much sold out, but because I'm not sure when I'm going to do this again, I'm adding a few more seats. And so please consider it. And okay, let's quickly talk before we go about your 5-week online training.
Yes, we're so excited. We just filmed it in Southern California. And each week we are taking a different element and diving deep. So we'll be talking about work, relationships, challenges, communication challenges, and we'll have all the solutions for them. We have a beautiful workbook that goes with the course. We have bonuses. You'll learn about the meridian system. You'll learn exercises. I think we have 30 energy exercises. Wow. And these are quick. These can take 30 seconds to be able to calm yourself if you're a water in fear, or calm your anger if you're a wood feeling anger, or dissipate your grief if you are a metal who feels grief, and being able to learn to work with the energy and move the energy out of your body so those emotions don't get trapped. And it's called Living the 5 Elements.
So can you share one before we go? Can we share one quick little thing we can do for ourselves to kind of release whatever it is that's in us?
Oh, I would love it. So there's an exercise that will help every single element, no matter what, whether you're feeling anger or panic or grief or fear or worry. And it's a way to quickly calm your nervous system. I love it because I'm a person who faints. This is really good for people who faint or have anxiety attacks or get vertigo or get lightheaded. It calms the nervous system. So all you're going to do is you're going to take a couple fingers and of one hand, it doesn't matter which hand,
Okay.
and put them into your belly button, your navel. And then you're going to take the other fingers of the other hand and put them on your third eye. And you're going to gently push in and pull up on both. And that's all you do. And what this is doing, and you're going to breathe, and it doesn't really matter how you're breathing right now, because the hookup, what this is called, the hookup is happening with your meridians. This is actually hooking up energy pathways on your body. If you have a breathing you like to do, if it's in through the nose and out through the mouth, or in through the nose and out through the nose, do your breathing with it. Otherwise, you can just sit here, and you know what? For a minute or two is all it takes. If you're a person who is really panicking, sit yourself down in a chair and do the hookup, and it calms your nervous system and connects those meridians and gets the meridians flowing. Again, all a meridian is an energy pathway in the body. So it helps them to flow and calm.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you for that extra bonus for those of you who are the teachers, real teachers' pets that are still around. Thank you so much, Dondi, for everything that you do. This was really exciting to reconnect myself with the 5 elements again. So thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. You're wonderful. I'm just so grateful for all that you do. I've been watching your videos and updating myself since we hadn't seen each other in so long. And you have a lot of courage. Keep the courage going, because it is a weird world out there right now. So I am with you, and there are a lot of people supporting you. And thank you for everyone watching and listening.
Yes, yes. I'm looking forward to picking the names on Monday. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching today. And remember the 5elements.com. I want to hear what your element is. I'm going to really answer these questions, about a 5-minute test. And then when I do my thank you video, I'll let you know what I am. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for